Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 14th day of July 2025. In studio, I still have Steve Ogola, I have Professor Colin Sodote, and now joined by Gitonga Murugara, who is the Member of Parliament for Tharaka constituency and also the Chairperson of the Justice Legal Affairs Committee. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Sam.
And we've been talking about IEBC has new leadership, of course, led by Chairperson Erastus Ethekon, and we're talking about the work that they have to do.
Yes.
So you've lost that opportunity.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize, Sam, and I apologize to my lovely friends, colleagues, and the viewers. Yes, sure. There was a slight mix-up somewhere that has caused the delay, but I tried to do the best I could to make it in time so that I'm able to join you for this. That's all right,
Mr. Chairman. And so help us understand, because there are several pending issues. One of them is the delimitation of boundaries.
Absolutely.
It's a constitutional requirement. The time lapsed in March 2024.
Yes.
What would you tell the Erastus Ethekon team to do?
The problem we have with that is there were timelines, and the time left may be limited in terms of delimiting constituencies. In as much as we would have thought about extension of time from either the Parliament or from the courts, I'm worried whether there is sufficient time to embark on the exercise in view of the fact that their tray is full. We first and foremost have to do the by-elections, which have been pending for a long time. 4 or 5 constituencies do not have members of parliament, while there are several wards which also do not have members of the county assemblies. This is the greatest priority. And then after that, we have to look at whether, even if we were to get extensions of time, would there be sufficient time to delimit constituencies and wards, and especially in terms of aligning them? Because I don't think there would be any creation of new constituencies, but we have to align the ones that are existing and also to take care of the protected constituencies, which by virtue of the Constitution have a lapse clause, which again is debatable whether they can actually lapse or they will now stop being protected so that they are substantive constituencies. Their tray is full. I'm sure today they are at work, and we should be hearing from them first and foremost regarding the dates of the by-elections. And then after that, we also move into the other issues that are pending.
But what do you think? Because the Constitution requires those boundaries to be reviewed every 8 to 12 years. If we go to the election in 2027, wouldn't we be going to an election with boundaries that are unconstitutional?
The problem with that is, by dint of the letter of the Constitution, we may argue so. But then what is next? Does it mean that there cannot be an election because there has been no delimitation? That's number one. Number two, would the election be unconstitutional purely because there was no delimitation? Again, these are arguments that are likely to come up, especially to scholars, but there must be reality. Reality is that we must have an election in 2027. We must also have in place 290 constituencies, because that is the constitutional provision. The fact that we've not aligned them, we've not changed their boundaries and what have you, does not alter anything, because the Constitution has cast our constituencies on stone. They must be 290, unless we do a constitutional amendment to increase the number. Yes. So I still feel we may have to grapple with the question of, we've not delimited the constituencies, but an election must be conducted in the 290 constituencies, the entire Republic of Kenya.
Prof, what are your thoughts about this question?
Damned if we do, damned if we don't. The reality, Sam, is that the Erastus Ethekon Commission will not have new electoral units for the 2027 elections. They won't. That's the reality. Because the same Constitution says that even if they were to do those units, if they're not completed a year to elections, cannot be used. A year to elections is next year in August. It is not practically feasible to finish boundary delimitations by a year to August. Talking to Steve, the information we both have is that they require around 18 months. So practically that's not possible. There are only 2 choices for the Commission to make. Choice number 1 is to do a little work before the next election, so that you can say, we have started, but then give yourself timelines to post 2027. The other one is to say, but with this full entry, why do I want to start something that I won't need for 2027? Just bite the bullet and tell Kenyans, colleagues, it's not our making. You have brought us in when the timelines long expired. Since we need this for 2032, allow us to do it in 2027 after the elections. Lastly, Sam, thankfully, there is also an advisory from the Supreme Court that is on this issue. So I hope that the Supreme Court will also be able to see the impracticality of the contending constitutional positions. That there'll be a problem if you don't do it, and a problem if you don't do it, which is a better one. We won't have them for the next election. And in any case, a friend of mine who used to work at IEBC said, what is the showstopper for these elections? I don't think that new boundary delimitation is a showstopper for 2027.
And Steve, so if we delay this, then we'll go to an election in 2027 with constituencies that are based on census of 2009, which is how many years ago? In 2027, that will be 18 years? No. Yes, 18 years.
Almost 18 years.
Yes.
Yeah. If we delay it and say that they can do the delimitation of that after the 2027 election, there'll be a census in 2029. And those boundaries will be used in the 2032 election. So do you do the delimitation of boundaries after 2027 with census data of 2019, which in 2032 will be 13 years old?
Well, I think that's a question for the future, but for now, let's sequence. First, this commission must take the problem of delimitation out of the commission and return it back to the people, particularly the political class. You remember after the 2017 election, Mr. Chebukati repeatedly asked the political wing of government for funds, some, to undertake the review. Mheshimiwa should tell us, why was IEBC not given the money? Because IEBC says they have conducted 50% of the desk work. And if given 18 months, this is a statement as that of 2017, just after the fresh election. If given 18 months, they would have conducted and completed the process, but Uhuru didn't prioritize it. Then the term expired. We didn't have a new commission. This is not a problem of IEBC. They must not make it their problem. And they must not make it their priority because there are practical and legal challenges, even if they were to prioritize. The legal challenges have been highlighted. The practical implication, this commission is undertaking induction. According to the commission, the induction process could take up to 2 months. Then they have to look at the boundaries review operation plan, which has expired 2019 to 2024, assuming it takes another 2 months because, you know, the process of renewal must involve stakeholders. Then you roll out the boundaries review, which they have estimated to take 18 months. So you have 2 plus 2 plus 18, giving it 24 months. Election is 24 months, giving it 22 months. Election is 24 months away. How can this be the IEBC's problem? I think we need to begin to allocate responsibility. And Mheshimiwa, I hope you can favor us with an apology why you did not prioritize funding of the limitation of boundaries. Once we deal with that, the legal challenges is, and what Prof has said correctly, Article 89 of the Constitution says, if you finalize that delimitation process within the last 12 months of election, then you can't even use it. Then there's the question of 27 constituencies that were preserved. They are no longer protected. If you conduct the review, you will lose those constituencies because the design problem we have in Article 89 SAM is that we have made delimitation a mathematical problem. How can you make delimitation of boundaries a mathematical problem, a mathematical issue? Because it says you use the population quota, divide by, to get the population quota, you take the entire population, even if you use the 2019 census for purposes of demonstration, gives you 47 million, or around 48, about 50 million, divide by 290 constituencies, because as Moish says, the Constitution fixes the number of constituencies to 290, including the protected ones. It gives you a threshold of about 133, 140 with a margin of 30%, a variation of about less than 50,000 voters. I can tell you the first casualty will be Mathioya. Looking at the politics in Mount Kenya, do you think Mathioya constituency can be lost in this election and have an election? They won't believe it. You can't lose. So the politics of preservation of those 27 constituencies exceeds the mandate of IEBC. And I hope that I can hear from Prof to tell, do we really need this, the commission to double up the work of election management and delimitation of boundaries? So I think that these are heavy lifting conversations that they cannot ponder and reflect on and resolve now. And even if they do, the implementation can't be done here. So fact is this. In the induction training, Prof, you're leading them in that team. I hope one of the resolutions is that they will pack the conversation on review of boundaries and define the future. Maybe do some minimal work. Kenyans must not pressure IEBC to delimit boundaries. I want them to pressure Mheshimiwas, and I hope some Mheshimiwa will favor us with a small explanation. No offense, Mheshimiwa. Oh. Then now, there is the other thorny issue of legislative and other reforms, the corporate reforms. Yeah. The Supreme Court has said in the 2022 election petition, if you read the presidential petition, the presidential election petition, the judgment in that petition, we keep emphasizing that electoral law reform must be completed at least 2 years to the election. We are right on we are cutting it too close already. Yeah. The election general regulations amendments, IEBC has said they are pending in Parliament. Voter registration regulations, voter education regulations, technology regulations, the election amendment bill, I don't know that was already passed, 2024.
I think we passed that.
It's already passed. A whole cocktail of legislative review are pending. Other than the induction, I would like to see the focus shift to completion of electoral law reform. Okay. And then the institutional reform. Can we have a shared and settled understanding, Sam, of what the commission chair can do and what the secretariat can do, so that there's no clash? Can we also have an understanding within the commission of intra-institutional committee? Because that's lacking. I certainly don't want to see a section of the commission calling a press conference disowning the work of the commission. It's just an embarrassment you don't need to see going forward. So they should be navigating those aspects. Okay. Then, of course, the by-elections, which Mheshimiwa said, again, by operation of law, now ranks as top priority. So in the bucket list, can we just agree, Sam? Remove this conversation on delimitation of boundaries, defer it to the court, let the court ponder on, because there's a judicial opinion pending at the Supreme Court. Right. Can we conduct 2027 election without delimitation of boundaries? The short answer is yes, because what would no mean? But is it a good thing? Someone must take responsibility, and I hope, Mheshimiwa, please take responsibility. Okay. I think for the failures.
Yes. You are a member of JLAC even.
I was a member of JLAC even the last term.
Yes.
I must confess that IEBC was not quite to Parliament with a request to be funded to delimit.
No, they did.
Remember this? Remember this is what it was. Yeah. First and foremost, in the eyes of Kenyans, delimitation is not altering boundaries, the boundaries of one constituency so that you move it to the next constituency. To Kenyans, it's actually division of constituencies, increasing the number. So you remember we had a constitutional amendment attempt. BBI. The BBI, yeah, which went down. And it took a lot of time all the way to 2020. I think it was on up to about 2020. Because the idea was actually to align the provision in the current constitution with an amendment that we would create 70 new constituencies, which is what Kenyans are waiting for. Today, if you tell them IEBC is going to delimit constituencies, but they will not exceed 290, Kenyans will come and tell you you're wasting our money. We want constituencies that deserve to be split, Ruiru, Mwea, wherever they are, to actually be split. So that is what, as the term of IEBC ended, it was grappling with going to Nyeri, realigning the constituencies so that Mukurweini is saved. by realignment, not by dividing the constituencies. Go to Ruiru, look at how Thika town looks like at the neighboring constituencies, and try to delimit by making sure the portions of that constituency go to the other constituencies. This is not what Kenyans are waiting for. They want constituencies that are overpopulated, split. So we are looking at exactly what can be done, whether it's going to be a constitutional amendment or it's going to be exactly what is in the current constitution, which is that we delimit by realigning the boundaries. But to me, what Kenyans are looking forward to in their wards and in their constituencies are those that deserve have to be split. Yes.
Sorry, you don't remember a request for financing?
To JLAC, if it came, I may not recollect because that time I was not the chairperson. I may have been a member. I don't know with what enthusiasm it was brought and whether it came through the executive or through IEBC directly. If it came, I'm 100% sure that there were no funds available, or the political
conveniently
the political position that time may have been that it was not as urgent and desirable that particular time.
Some can actually tell
right?
the relief.
But for me, it is the BBI which was actually the answer to this, and BBI went down.
Sam, actually that is why the limitation didn't happen. The limitation didn't happen because the political class wanted instead to deal with the question about the numbers of constituencies, number one. But number two, they wanted to deal with who has the responsibility to determine. If you remember the BBI proposals, it was not just proposing to increase the numbers to 70. It was actually going ahead to determine what those 70 were. So we had two issues on BBI that then made this other one untenable for IEBC. That let us increase the numbers, which require constitutional amendment, but as we increase, let us not allow somebody else to determine. Let us propose, here is where they are going to. So I think as we move into the future, Sam, when we reach this question of delimitation, we will have to confront the reality and ask ourselves, do we really need a constitutional amendment to increase the numbers of constituencies, or should we retain it at 290? If we do, whichever we do, we must still be able to tell the political class, wait a minute, you have no responsibility of determining the boundaries either of wards or constituencies or counties. That's the responsibility of a constitutional commission, IEBC.
What is the answer? Do we need to increase the number of constituencies?
If you asked me, I think we are already overrepresented. We have too many legislators. We don't need to increase the numbers. We can be able to deal with the equitable distribution without increasing numbers. Because if we increase numbers, every time the population increases, we'll always increase. I don't think we need more legislators.
And if I remember correctly, one of the conversations that former President Uhuru Kenyatta was talking about during the campaign for BBI was that he was saying every constituency receives a certain amount of CDF. Whether you're many or few, it is shared amongst yourselves when it comes to bursaries, and saying that some constituencies, you receive bursaries of 5,000 going down. In other constituencies, it's 10,000 going up. Yet now we are in a situation where you're having to amend the constitution to anchor the NGCDF into the constitution. So really, what should define the desire for either more constituencies or just delimiting based on the 290, Chairman?
I think the two issues are separate. The issue of CDF is separate from the issue of delimitation, purely because CDF, and this is in accordance with the will of Kenyans when we went for public participation, is popular. It may have a few hiccups here and there, but it's the best way they see government development to the grassroots. As regards delimitation and the numbers, whichever way we see it, even if we are going to align the boundaries, I don't think that is going to be popular with Kenyans, because their view was that we should actually get new constituencies coming up in areas that deserve. As to whether once population increases, constituencies also increase. At independence, we were less than 100 constituencies. And today we are 290. In 258 was possibly the last one we had. Then we went to 290. So they keep on going up. The only thing we need to look at is rationale, that if they are to increase, they must meet the constitutional threshold required, that this is going to be the population, and that those that are protected must meet that threshold first, as we create others also that meet that threshold. But I agree with my learned friends. The correct position is that nobody else, politicians away, even Parliament will have to look at what is proposed by IEBC, but it's the responsibility of IEBC to propose the delimitation, and it is for Parliament to approve. It is not the other way around, that Parliament is going to initiate and legislate, and then after that IEBC implements.
Sorry, why do you say that when population increases, the number of constituencies should also increase?
Because it's representation. It's one man, it's one person, one ballot. It should be that as much as we can, that your ballot is as equal to
I mean, so increase up to what?
Determined by the ratio and the formula that has been set out in the Constitution, which includes population and geographical considerations.
That's what I'm saying.
Because on the other hand, I agree that it's not fair for me to give out CDF of 5,000 in the Raka constituency, while somebody else in a constituency in northern Kenya is able to give 10,000 and above without a lot of stress. But when you look at the persons he's giving and where they live, there may be justification that even with that 10,000, this person to find decent education is difficult. So all those factors have to...
And that's why there are those that argue in favor of moving the CDF away from members of Parliament or the constituencies. But, so, radio constituency...
Let's say move away from the constituencies, not members of Parliament, because we have tried to move it
I said both.
As much as we can.
Sorry,
there isn't anything left now.
You don't have any role?
Now we have no role to play whatsoever. It's oversight.
I'm not asking in the law. You, as a person?
As a person, I don't. I have a committee that sits in the constituency. Mine is just to ensure that they are planned.
You realize what you just said?
Yes.
You have a committee.
No.
I thought I'm the one who had it.
The constituency, let's be sincere and honest, the constituency is under me. Everything that happens there, I have every right to say this is going to be, for example, even when I'm not tarmacking roads and the government is doing it, I can still say I'm getting roads tarmacked in my constituency, which is all right. What you're saying with this...
Okay, Chairman, you've answered my question.
Thank you.
Now, Ruiru constituency has 172,000
absolutely
members or electors or voters, if you
exactly.
Like. Lamu East in 2022 had 22,000. So did Isiolo, I believe it's Isiolo North. So if, as population increases, you need more constituencies, you may never stop. Aren't you just supposed to share the 290?
What we do... overrepresentation. You know, again, if you have too many people, too many constituents, too many voters, that in itself may not lead to effective representation. There must be a number that is reasonable per constituency. What we are saying is Lamu East constituency may not get a new constituency for the next couple of years, because it has not reached the threshold. But it's a constituency with vested rights, and these people have actually, they have accrued rights to that constituency. But for Ruiru, which if you split by 2 still has about 80-something, towards 90,000 per constituency, I think it deserves another constituency. They may not be as many as 70, what we had put in the BBI, but there is justification that some constituencies, even if they are split or there is a realignment that splits some of them, we can actually get equitable representation.
Okay.
Those that are small may have their population rise gradually. Those that are equal, now there is parity when it comes to the resources available. So
sorry, I said Isiolo North. It's supposed to be Isiolo South with 22,181 voters. Isiolo North had 67,323. I'll get to you, Wakili Ogola, but Prof, you wanted to say something?
I think 2 things. Number 1, the problem with the argument that we must increase because population increases is that we forget that the real thing we need to deal with is equity in representation. So equity is not solved by increasing constituencies, it's solved by ensuring there's fair distribution. And we need to, for me, we need to confront this elephant that we put in our boundary room of protected constituencies and look at it in the face and say, for how long will we protect constituencies? That's the first difficult thing. The second difficult thing is we need to be very clear that as we determine boundaries, do we need to have the same numbers in urban and rural areas? Do we need to have the same numbers in sparsely populated and in densely populated? We need to confront that. Then we'll be able to have equity in a much better way. The second thing we need to confront is we need to run away from having electoral units as units for resource allocation. We must separate the two. Electoral units are supposed to be for representation. Then distribution of resources should follow a different parameter. That way, we will solve this problem about numbers of... Because currently now, people see, if you take away my constituency, you'll take away my CDF. If you take away my constituency, you'll take my road. But if we think about it much more creatively, we'll solve representation and also solve resource allocation in a manner that is fair, both to the sparsely populated and to the densely populated.
You know, that's very interesting because, I mean, it's the reason why a parliament, starting with the National Assembly, has passed a bill to amend the constitution to create the NGCF. And I remember in one of the amendments, I think it was in 2023, they had actually passed a law to recognize constituency as a unit for service delivery when it comes to matters constituency development fund, but it's an interesting perspective that you bring. Wakili, so with all these affairs, and I know you're saying that we should not touch that conversation because they won't be useful, but it has to be dealt with, whichever way you look at it.
I agree. I'm listening to Prof. and Mheshimiwa, very thoroughbred lawyers, what they are highlighting inadvertently is the declining influence of the Constitution. This is a stubborn refusal, Sam, by people to accept certain constitutional imperatives. Because look, we had a constitutional forum during the review of the enactment process that says, look, can we settle on a fixed number of constituencies so we don't leave it as a free-floating idea? But I like Mheshimiwa's views because he is on the ground and he's telling us voters do not want to lose their constituencies regardless of what the law says. I mean, that's unhealthy tension because the Constitution was voted for in a referendum by more than 67% of Kenyans who are present and voting in August 2010. That document says it's desirable to put a ceiling on the number of representation. And I agree with Prof because if you remove that, if you interfere with that safeguard, then the numbers will keep on increasing ad infinitum. I mean, there's no limit on how many MPs we can have in the future. So I think it's still desirable that we talk to our constituents and our people to understand that placing a cap is a good idea, just like the idea that Prof is espousing here of finding ways of dealing with the issues that affect Ruiru. Because in all fairness, I mean, they're posing serious questions. I saw the amendment to Section 36 of the IEBC Act that provides for delimitation. They have cleverly added a political settlement there, that the delimitation will take into account the need for equality of the vote. It's right there. I mean, I wonder how equality of the vote has found its way in Section 36. That's legislating politics. But understand the pain that our elected leaders suffer in terms of communicating this to the people they represent. But the main problem is not Section 36 of the IEBC Act. The real problem is Article 89, which fixes the numbers and provides a primary formula. It says the population quota will be determined by dividing the national population as against the number of constituencies. Then you can make small adjustments using geographical consideration and so on and so forth. I think where we are right now, our politicians, if they can't do this, then the media should do it. And maybe the Constitutional Commission should do it. We need to sensitize the people to accept certain constitutional imperatives as part of our lived reality, without neglecting their core concerns. I feel it when you say 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Makes sense. Because why should I be represented? I mean, if I'm an MP, I'm representing 170 people. and another MP, Mheshimiwa, here is representing just 10,000. I mean, I can talk and talk and talk before you can utter a word, Mheshimiwa. Because your population can, I mean, so the way to mitigate that is to pump in more resources in my constituency so that I can tell my people, look, we're equally yoked.
So, Steve, while talk is good, representation is not just about talk.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm telling you about the disjunction between certain constitutional imperatives and reality. Yeah. You know, at the architectural, at the design level, these MPs collectively, as the National Assembly, when Mheshimiwa speaks, he doesn't speak for his electoral unit. He speaks for all of us Kenyans. Yeah. But in reality, we don't see it that way. So what I'm saying is the balance is not to increase or remove the caps. The balance is then to find out how do you pump more resources in constituencies that are overpopulated. Right. That way, everybody feels included. Okay. But also constituencies that are sparsely populated, I think let's just call a spade a spade. They will be lost at some point because there's just so much Ruiru can take. If Lamu East, and even Mukurweini and Othaya, look at the numbers. Look at the IEBC report to NADCO. In that report, I looked at it in the morning. It highlights how Othaya and Mukurweini in Nyeri are sparsely populated and underpopulated, and they may not be saved if we are to complete the delimitation. They need to make peace with the fact that other Kenyans can't carry their burden for long. So either they increase their population or we'll just have to merge them into the next. That conversation is as important as increasing resources to Ruiru.
Okay. So even though rural-urban migration is real, because when you come to Nairobi, Census 2019 will tell you that Nairobi by day has about 6 million people. Yeah. By night, it's about 4 million.
4 million people.
Most of these people have moved from certain...
Either way, Sam, the point, please don't minimize or don't devalue this, but the point is this.
No, I'm not.
People who come from sparsely populated constituencies must make peace with certain constitutional imperatives. Because you cannot say that you don't want to open up the representation and increase the number of constituencies, but you also don't want to lose sparsely populated constituencies. It's not a politically tenable issue, but it's legally tenable. Okay. So at some point, we'll have to make peace. If a constituency is underrepresented, for how long will they remain it's sparsely populated? You have 22,000 against the national average of 133 some. How long?
Just a moment, Chairman. Yes. I just want to highlight. So there are 27 constituencies that were protected. You're talking about Voi, Wundanyi, Mwatate, Galole, Bura, Isiolo South, Samburu East, Laisamis, North Hall, Saku, Kilome, Mukurweini, Mbere North, Mathioya, Daragwa, Budalangi, Vihiga, Othaya, Mathioya, Kangema, Marakwet East, Keio North, Tetu, Mogotio, Lamu East, Lamu West, and Mvita. And of course, they didn't meet that threshold. If you had to look at the examples you cite, Othaya had about 61,000 voters. Mukurweini had 50,000 voters. Like I said, Lamu East had about 22,000. Saku had 30,000 voters. And these are the constituencies that are currently protected. Is it possible at the next review to have another layer of protection, or this has to go?
My own view is, number one, that protection had some legal validity because of accrued rights. Yeah. These were constituencies that had been there for whatever reason, without having to consider how they had been created. These people had actually accrued rights by virtue of voting in those constituencies. Now, if you come up with a proposal that we possibly want to merge them, scrap them, or whatever, you would definitely going to face resistance. And that's why law does not operate in vacuum. Law is there to serve the people. We must listen to these people and see how best we can deal with it. While we can realign boundaries to try and save some of these constituencies, we also have to look at the fact that those that cannot be saved may also be difficult to scrap, because it's difficult. I do not... No, number two, the word equality used in Section 36 of the Elections Act, it's purely to ensure that one vote in Lamu East is equal to a vote in Tharaka, equal to a vote everywhere else, including my own vote in Parliament. When I vote one vote, yes or no, and the member for Ruiru votes yes or no, are those votes equal in terms of representation? As he said, the member for Ruiru possibly will have to have 2 votes, and I have only 1. So that we have equality in voting in the parliament, even when it comes to allocating resources. We are saying CDF should be equal to all constituencies. And we take a vote. Is my vote equal to his vote? Because representation is not fair, it's not just. Number 3, as you've heard him say, we have possibly to realign the way we distribute our resources to constituencies. Again, everybody sees constituencies as a basis of population gauge. That is, we are able to determine population based on constituencies. And that is why CDF has its own pros and cons, including the population itself saying they want CDF to stay because if we take everything to central government, some constituencies may not be able to see anything. And this has happened for a long time. That's why we have the marginalized constituencies, which we have equalization fund, which does not work very well also. So CDF seems to be the model that works best across the country. And there is a bit of disparity in it, because a constituency like Ruiru may actually have more wards than my constituency, which means it gets more CDF than I do.
Have you thought about using the sub-counties under the counties?
Again, we have to look at whether they are also not along the lines of constituencies. Sparsely populated, vast, there wasn't any political creations, because that may be what influenced the increase of these constituencies from, I think we had 58 when we got independence, to what we have 290 today. And rest assured, after a while, we will move from past the 290 we have, purely because population is increasing, there may be political considerations, and you cannot remove politics from this, because we are a political country.
I want us to exit this conversation, but Steve, so if we do delimitation of boundaries, must we do fresh voter registration?
Definitely, it will follow. No, not, okay, I mean, voter registration is a legal imperative that must, even regardless of the delimitation, it must continue. But once you do delimitation, the purpose legally, forget about the reality that Mheshimiwa is talking about, legally, the purpose of delimitation is to realign, lose and gain some new constituencies without exceeding the threshold of 290. So just for, I mean, to settle the conversation, the 27 constituencies that were preserved are no longer protected, because they're only protected following the first review. So if we do this review, they'll be lost as a matter of law. So politics must intervene to save them. So,
would you introduce another provision to protect them?
Yeah, you can extend. Now that calls for constitutional amendment to Article 89 of the Constitution. Yeah, but needless to say, once you review boundaries, of course, voter registration must follow. If you don't do the delimitation of boundaries, as is unlikely to happen, IEBC will do continuous voter registration as a legal imperative. They've always done it. So the short answer is, yes, it's tied to it. If review is conducted, it continues as a matter of law, whether review is conducted or not.
But there's clarity I'm lacking.
Yes.
So if you delimitate the boundaries, meaning the boundaries have changed.
Yes.
Do you need to register afresh so that every
Definitely, you will. Yes, you must. Yeah.
Okay.
Because currently, those of us who are here are registered in Dagoretti North.
Yeah.
Yes.
If today you delimit and this part becomes part of Dagoretti South, then there must be fresh registration so that we can be able to align people to where they are, because we are registering people in an electoral unit.
Okay.
But Sam, can we really lose these constituencies, the 27? If you look at the constitutional provision, it says there shall be 290 constituencies. So it limits us from losing and gaining. So even if we do it, I don't think we are losing Laisabis, we are losing Mathioya or any of them.
We only still belong to a constituency.
What they'll do is we will have to find a way of trying to give them possibly more people, but they'll retain their names, they'll retain whatever identity they have without having to lose them. Because if you lose them, we'll have less than 290.
Of course. For instance, Nyeri County has 3 that are protected.
Protected, yes.
Tetu, Mukurweini,
Yeah.
Udhaya.
Yeah.
So what would happen is that perhaps you lose the name of one and they join the other two.
That's one, or you go to Nyeri town, it saves Othaya.
Yeah.
You go to Kieni, it saves the other one. You go to the other one, it saves the other one.
But
the remain 6.
The total of Nyeri County may reduce.
The total constituencies, it used to be said they will reduce, but
it may reduce so that.
Then you're saying if
that only works.
That only works if Nyeri reduces. Yeah, you're saying if Nyeri reduces, Kiambu gains.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be the other, provided it's 290 and not less than 290, not more than 290. But again, I have a problem with accrued rights. How do you solve that for these people?
Okay.
Will Kenyans, and we have public participation, a key cornerstone of our constitution.
We may never know until we try.
So how are we going?
But that's also why this conversation is not a technical conversation. It's both technical and political. So that people realize that, by the way, here are our options. Of these options, which one is the better one for us?
Better one for us.
Because if you look at Lamu, with its 2 constituencies, Lamu East is 22,000 voters, Lamu West is 59,000 voters. So it looks like they would become one.
That's the point, because you need an adjacent constituency that is overrepresented or overpopulated to adjust some of the wards, bring it to a sparsely populated constituency. That can work if the neighboring constituency is sparsely populated. But if you have a constituency that is surrounded by constituencies that are sparsely populated, then it's difficult to readjust the boundaries, as to preserve them. I think what Mheshimiwa is saying, and I agree, Mheshimiwa don't think that I'm not sensitive to the politics. For instance, I come from Ugenya constituency. Ugunja was carved out of Ugenya. If Ugunja has donated an expert, to borrow that language, to this government, if you tell the people of Ugunja that you're no longer going to have representation because you fall below the population quota, go back to Ugenya, you can foresee the resistance.
Absolutely.
So the idea is we need to do a lot of public sensitization around this matter and tell the people, look, it's about being fair. We don't want constituencies that are sparsely populated losing their voices, but we also don't want constituencies that are overrepresented feeling the burden of overrepresentation. So we may have to make peace with certain constitutional imperatives. Right now, and I keep saying some, it seems that the influence of the Constitution vis-a-vis the politics is waning. And that declining influence should worry experts like Professor here. Because politics seems to be the dominant theme. And next to politics, there is the question of representation insofar as the 2/3 gender principle is concerned. Politicians are not making heavy weather of that because it's convenient for them to suppress that conversation. Election campaign financing is another constitutional imperative. They are not creating heavy weather around it because it's not politically attractive. So you can see how they choose and pick the battles that they project as belonging to the people. So I think that sensitization must begin with our elected leaders, because they whip up emotions, they make it difficult for the people on the ground to accept certain constitutional imperatives. Because our leaders, and that part is good. When you have an elected leader, there's some constitutional deference to that office, that they speak for us and they respect our best interests. But sometimes they manipulate that office for partisan political gain. And this conversation is not very different from what Mutula Kilonzo Sr. brought in 2011 during the election amendment, the election bill 2011. He resisted the conversation on zoning. Some constituencies are single gender constituencies. He said, Mboni can come up. I'm the Minister for Justice. You want to create single gender constituencies to comply with 2/3 gender requirement. Then now you midwife a process that kicks you out. So it wasn't politically convenient. So we have to be very careful how elected leaders balance national interest as against partisan political interest.
Okay, all right. Now, very important because, like we said, Lamu with its 2 constituencies, if it's reduced to 1, there will be a county which is also a constituency. It's not happening yet because we're not sure if delimitation will happen. But at the same time, politicians have been speaking. Let's listen to the woman representative for Wajir who has ideas on how 2027 will be fixed.
Sisi maneno yetu ni mafupi tu. Tunasema tu 2 term. Ama kuna maneno mengine? 2 term. Sio? Si tunaongojea tu debe iletwe hata kama hatutakuwa na votes tutamuibia. Hiyo si siri. Asanteni.
So that's a member of parliament. And Chairman Murugara, you're really tickled. I mean,
absolutely.
What is this?
No,
are there serious plans, first of all, because she speaks for your side of politics?
No, I don't think it's anything like that, absolutely. The trouble is politicians take matters of jest to look serious. You want to crack a joke, you go to a serious meeting, you take a microphone, and you crack your joke when everybody in the country is listening to you. Later on, you'll have to try to retract, I was misquoted, or this is not what I meant, and we have that on our plate every day. I think that is not anybody's position. It is not even our own position. She's not saying she's going to rig herself in because she knows for sure she cannot do it. If she's going to lose the election, it's not going to be because of anything else. It's the voters will have rejected her. So this is what IEBC was saying last night, that these matters of political pronouncements and jest keep away from electoral matters because you cause anxiety where there should be no anxiety. There is nobody who has a plan like that. I don't think, and even if you add, it will not work because we have an independent body, which in my view, and having gone through the processes and looked at everybody who went in there, it's not a question of that. In any event, to rig an election today is the most difficult thing.
Is it possible?
It is extremely difficult because, number one, elections are concluded at polling stations.
Yeah.
And nobody should cheat in any other way. Because the reason in 2022 the petition could not succeed was they were not able to produce one Form 34A that was altered. Elections are concluded from a polling station where everybody has an agent, which means I get 20 votes, they sign for my 20 votes. How you change that to 40 votes? I have no idea. So we are still yet to see if anybody would make an attempt to alter those forms or alter the results, such that when you look at what came from a polling station is different from what reached IEBC tallying center. I don't know how that can be done.
Okay.
I don't know what she meant, but to me, she was saying this in jest in a political rally with a mic, telling Kenyans what she thinks is a good joke, but it isn't.
She thinks it's a good joke. Is it a good joke, Prof? Because we've been here before, and she's not the only person who is speaking. We've had Oscar Sudi and other leaders, parliamentarians, saying as much. Should we ignore?
I actually have the opposite of what Honorable Murugara is saying. I don't think that they're taking jokes too seriously. I think they're taking serious things as jokes. And that is a dangerous thing. Because this is not my villager from Asumbi. This is an elected political leader with huge responsibility. So to make those kind of casual statements in a public rally and then tomorrow say, you know, it was not serious, I was misquoted, I think is to forget where we were 20 years ago. In 2007, it is those casual statements that took this country to where we were. I think we need to ensure that leadership has a sense of responsibility. And as we relook at the laws, it might actually be time for us to ask ourselves, what are the criminal consequences of certain casual statements? Because those casual statements made in that context, you just had, you asking Murugara that, you know, she speaks for your side of the political question. And Murugara said, no, she doesn't. She doesn't even believe it herself. But you see, as she speaks, she's not just speaking for herself. The people in that constituency are now taken to associate with her. The people in her political side are taken to be on her side. Yet those are not things that have been processed. So I think as leaders, we need to reflect much more clearly to recognize that, look, we can make political statements. There's no problem making the political statement that we think our candidate will get a second term. But don't go to the head of saying we will steal. Because when you do so, you are crossing the Rubicon. And sometimes when you cross the Rubicon, the consequences should be dire so that people recognize that there are consequences for statements. That's why you're told, what you have said is defamation. What you've said is libel. Politicians also need to know that now when you make certain statements, this is not now politics. This is now legal and has consequences. That's the only way we'll bring sanity to our electoral processes.
And Wakili, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that also. But first, let's also hear from the chairperson